Welcome back. It's Tuesday, and typically on Tuesdays, I'll do a video looking at the news headlines from around the Ontario Hockey League. And it seems as though there's a few things brewing at the Canadian Hockey League level. So we'll talk about that. There's also, of course, the potential relocation of the Mississauga Steelheads to Brampton, but no new details on that front. But another city looking to maybe get some attention as a future host of an Ontario Hockey League team. So we'll talk a bit about that. But first, let's just dive right into the CHL Top 10, because I haven't actually talked about the CHL Top 10 since before the OHL trade deadline, because there's just been so much going on. So only 3 teams from the Ontario Hockey League made the CHL Top 10 ranking. And for the first time this season, the Saginaw Spirit have cracked the top 3. They came in at number 3. The Saginaw Spirit right now, they've been on a roll. They're on a 7-game winning streak right now. They have so much depth when you've got the likes of Owen Beck, Michael Misa, Zane Parek, Ray Hache, Hunter Haight. The list goes on and on. This is a really strong team that's, of course, hosting the Memorial Cup. So I think the Saginaw Spirit, safe to say they have arrived. And right now they're in a 3-way tie for top spot in the Ontario Hockey League with the London Knights and the Sioux Greyhounds. All 3 of those teams right now 65 points to their credit. So right now they are getting the job done. Also making the CHL Top 10, we've got the London Knights. They finished 4th in the CHL Top 10 ranking. They're right now on a 16-game point streak. They had their 14-game winning streak snapped, but they've suffered 2 losses in a shootout. So they're still getting the points, and that's why the London Knights being recognized for their efforts over the last week, because London, even though they may have had a bit of a setback with these 2 shootout losses, they're still a threat in the Western Conference. They're actually playing Kitchener tonight in a huge tilt in the Midwest Division. So look out for that game. That's a 7 o'clock puck drop at the Odd. The last time those two teams met, it was quite the dramatic game. There were 6 fights. It was a 10-3 final, had a couple suspensions out of it. So that one's going to be a must-watch game tonight because, of course, the NHL, their schedule is really light as many teams are on their break around the All-Star game. So that one definitely worth checking out. Now, the 3rd team to make the list on the CHL Top 10 ranking, that would be the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. They're number 9 in the CHL Top 10. So good to get some recognition for them. They're another team that's been on a roll. They won both their games last week against Kitchener and Sarnia, and they're preparing for a big West Division showdown with the Saginaw Spirit Wednesday night. So the Greyhounds and Spirit will decide who will take top spot in the West, and that'll be on Wednesday. So that's going to be an exciting game. So those are the 3 teams that made the CHL Top 10 ranking. It's the Saginaw Spirit, London Knights, and the Sioux Greyhounds. Now, another item that has come about involving the Canadian Hockey League is that the NCAA might be changing its rules for eligibility, because right now, if you are looking to go to the NCAA, you don't go into the CHL because you lose your scholarship because you're being paid to play junior hockey. But right now, the NCAA considering a change. This is being reported by Craig Button with TSN. He's saying expect this change to be announced maybe within the next 12 to 18 months. Because players like Adam Fantilli, he was drafted into the OHL. He's come out and he said he probably would have played in the Canadian Hockey League if it wasn't for the rules that the NCAA has. So that would really change the junior hockey landscape if players were allowed to play in the CHL and then shift over to the NCAA. So curious about how that would all work out, but that's what's being reported by Craig Button right now. We'll have to see if that all takes effect, because that would be quite the shift for the Canadian Hockey League. Also, we had the CHL Top Prospects game last week. Cole Beaudoin of the Barrie Colts, he attended that. It sounds like this year in Moncton, maybe the last time we see the CHL Top Prospects game done that way. What's being talked about is that instead of 1 game, it could become a 2-game series and would feature the top talent from the Canadian Hockey League going up against the top talent out of the United States. So it's still going to be draft eligible players for the NHL draft, but it's another way to feature the talent in a competitive level such as this. So nothing has been confirmed yet. It's just something that's being considered right now, kind of freshen things up a bit when it comes to the CHL Top Prospects game, because it is a fun event. They had the skills competition just to go over some of the young talent, see what they're capable of. And then, of course, it's Team Red versus Team White. It used to be Team Or versus Team Cherry back in the day, but they've moved away from that. And it's still a great way to feature the young talents. And if they want to freshen it up, why not try it? It might be something worth a try, especially if you are talking about maybe allowing CHL players to move to the NCAA. Are those two things connected? Maybe, but we will have to wait and see. So some interesting news involving the Canadian Hockey League to look for going forward. Also, I wanted to just bring up the situation involving Ty Nelson with the North Bay Battalion. He left the game in the second period, and it was a nasty fall that he had. He was involved in a bit of a scrum with Andre Anania of the Sudbury Wolves on Friday night. It was a huge game between the two Central Division rivals battling for top spot in the Central, and you know that emotions are there, tempers are going to flare. So what happened was there was a line scrum. The linesmen were already dealing with a couple of players who were battling along the boards after the whistle. And then Nelson started a shoving match with Anania. Anania ended up knocking off his helmet. And during the process, they decided to drop the gloves. But as a result, Ty Nelson, who was not wearing his helmet, hit his head off the ice. And he was woozy. He needed to be helped off the ice. Even the trainer for the Sudbury Wolves came across to provide some assistance. Right now, still waiting for an update in regards to the status of Ty Nelson. You do have to expect he's going to miss time for the North Bay Battalion, which is really tough considering he's a top defenseman in the Ontario Hockey League. And with North Bay battling Sudbury for top spot in the Central Division, that's going to be a huge loss for them. So we'll have to wait and see what the status will be of Ty Nelson. And it's a really tough situation. If you're squeamish, don't look up the video. It was hard to watch as Nelson laid on the ice after hitting his head. But it's those situations where the player loses his helmet. You need to get them, I guess, away from the situation somehow. I know when you're fighting, helmets are going to fall off. The linesmen do what they can to try and prevent a serious injury when a player falls. But when the linesmen are already dealing with a situation, there was a referee standing there talking to the two players. But the referee, they're there to call penalties, monitor the situation. So you don't typically see referees standing between two willing combatants who are dropping the gloves. But maybe we need to see that more. Maybe we need to see referees being involved, especially when you're dealing with concussions and serious head injuries, because this is something that could end a player's career. I'm not saying that Ty Nelson's career is in jeopardy, but still, it's tough to watch, especially when these are teenagers. They're just kids. They're working their way up, trying to move up to the National Hockey League level, and fans, they're paying to see players like Ty Nelson play. So I'm sure the Ontario Hockey League, the Canadian Hockey League are going to look into this situation, but still, just best wishes to Ty Nelson. Hopefully it's not that serious of injury. Hopefully he's able to come back sooner rather than later, but still a very tough loss for the North Bay Battalion. Now, I did touch on the fact that there's nothing to report right now in regards to a potential relocation of the Mississauga Steelheads to the Brampton Battalion. I've already talked about what's come up in regards to City Council and the rumors and the trademarks in previous videos. So if you want to check that out, do so. But what stood out to me is there was an article that was posted out of Chatham-Kent. Now, Chatham, they've been having discussions about building a new arena because the current Memorial Center, which is celebrating its 75th anniversary, it's not up to code to hosting the OHL or other events. And for the city of Chatham, they're similar to Brantford. They want to bring bigger teams and bigger events to their community, but they're kind of stuck. They were looking to build a new arena that could have housed an Ontario Hockey League team, but that kind of fell apart. They didn't get the funding from both the federal or provincial levels of government. But the mayor of Chatham has come out, Chatham Mayor Darren Caniff. He was attending a basketball game, the Windsor Express. They play in the Basketball Super League. They held an exhibition game in Chatham a couple weeks ago. And Caniff came out basically saying, there's a demand in the city of Chatham for a professional or a semi-pro team. Chatham-Kent, it's located along the 401 between London and Windsor. He believes there's a market to be had for Chatham to host teams, junior hockey, basketball, whatever it may be. So he's still wanting to build an arena. Obviously, they have to start from square one, but still interesting comments from him. It would be fascinating to see Chatham be on the market because in the past they've been in the middle of rumors. I can remember when the Niagara Ice Dogs, before they moved into the Meridian Center, the Burks, they were talking about maybe moving the Ice Dogs to Chatham as an option because Niagara was playing out of the Jake Gatcliffe Arena. They wanted a new rink and they were exploring other markets as to who could house the Niagara Ice Dogs. Chatham was brought up then. Obviously, that didn't happen. And then when the Plymouth Whalers were for sale, Chatham was another time being considered as a landing spot for the Whalers. But because of the Chatham Memorial Center not being up to code, they ended up being purchased by Rolf Nielsen and moved to Flint. And they're now the Firebirds. So again, Chatham, that discussion is there. City Council, we'll have to wait and see if they move forward. But the mayor right now, he's open to the idea of trying to bring junior hockey or the basketball super league to their community. The basketball super league, if you're not too familiar, it's a pretty small league. They only have a handful of teams here in Ontario. You've got the Windsor Express, you've got the Kitchener-Waterloo Titans, the Sudbury Five, and then the London Lightning. And of course, those teams all play out of current OHL arenas. So if Chatham is looking at a basketball team, that would also open the door for the OHL. And this is going to be a long process because when you do get into discussions about building an arena, there's different steps you have to take. You have to find the property. You got to have the right size and whatnot. So this could be something that is 5-10 years down the road, but Chatham still expressing interest in bringing in a sports team. They're actually going to be in the Intercounty Baseball League this summer. They're going to be having the Chatham Barnstormers joining the IBL. So this is one of their first steps in becoming more known in the sports scene. The Intercounty Baseball League, kind of semi-pro. It's a pretty big league. They're going to have, I believe it's now 9 teams once Chatham joins this summer. So it's nothing is being confirmed, but I just thought an interesting take coming out of the city of Chatham. I know we're already talking about Brampton potentially landing the Mississauga Steelhead. So I thought this article came out and I felt this was a good time to chat about Chatham. Anyways, let me know what you think about the situation involving the city of Chatham. Do you think OHL hockey could work in that community if maybe you're from that area? Or let me know about your thoughts on the CHL, maybe being allowed to have players go from the CHL to the NCAA. Love to see the comments and the feedback. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.